So here we are, beginning of December 2008, with the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. I will try to explain to you a little bit, even with a little video clip from somewhere that I found that was very easy to understand, as it was very graphic, and not in a gory way, but in a graphic explanation. And I will try to also, I know the subtitle because all I have is in French right now, so I will try to explain to you how it works. Basically, multiple myeloma is a rare cancer. It's rare because it's a cancer of what they call stem cell cancer, bone marrow cancer. It used to be called bone marrow cancer. It's basically, we have some stem cells which are made of red blood cells with platelets, which is what makes your blood coagulate. And we have also the white cells, certain types of white cells that live in a bone marrow. Nowhere else in your body but in your bone marrow. Why they're there is because that's where they can reproduce themselves as cloning themselves to create more fabricating cells and also creating cells necessary for our body to function. And multiple myeloma is a cancer that was basically created when one of the white blood cells, plasmocyte, that sort of cloned itself but mutated because of our environment, mutated because of exposure to who knows chemicals in the environment, and that mutated cell is also a fabricating cell, which means that it can clone itself, and by creating another fabricating cell, which also fabricates cells to send in your body, and in this case, in my bone marrow, my bone marrow. This type of cancer basically affects the bones, because that's where it lives, and that's where it reproduces itself, and that's where it hides. And it may not necessarily choose one bone; it may choose many bones, and that's why they call it multiple myeloma. The biggest ravages of this cancer is that it will turn the hard structure of your bones into soft tissue of your bones, replacing it by almost dissolving it. So you can imagine inside the bone you have almost like a spongy, hard core. And the myeloma cells and the proteins will actually invade certain parts of it and soften that structure, and eats its way out towards the cortex, which is the outside of the bone, which is made of basically a lot of calcium and so on. And it will create, if you take an x-ray of the bone from someone suffering from myeloma, you will see a white bone structure, you will see the outside of the bone, and then you will see dark spots. Dark spots because the x-ray machine can actually see through rather than being stopped at the hardness. It's like a stud finder, finding a weakness in the bone. It will be shown as darkness. And my diagnosis was that there was some bone damage to my skull, which is not that bad, because the skull can pretty well be, it's not a structural thing that holds me up. But there was also some damage to my femur, in my humerus, which is in your arm structure. So those are the big bones. It tends to like the big bones, the end of the big bones, whenever there's a joint, and so on. And then multiple myeloma also generates a lot of protein, which is not necessarily good, and because if your kidneys cannot basically digest and absorb all the protein that you have in your system, then basically you will damage your kidneys. And then also because it's eating the bone away, and it's also making you suffer from hypercalcemia, which is where the calcium in your system is overwhelming. But you're losing it, so you must treat that in order to stop the damage or try to repair the damage as it's going along. So until the myeloma cells stop eating away or producing, you're on a fight against what it's damaging, and you're trying to treat at the same time a destruction of the myeloma. And also because of being hypercalcemic, which a lot of calcium in the system, that also goes to the kidneys. Again, the kidneys can only take so much calcium. After that, they start to have damage. So the most dangerous thing of that is bone damage and your kidney damage. So this is, and then the multiple myeloma is a rare cancer that only, if you take all the cancers that people suffer, it represents only 1% of all these cancers. In Canada alone, there's only 6,000 people suffering from multiple myeloma. There's 12 to 1,400 new cases a year. There's 14 to 1,600 new cases a year, but there's about 1,200 cases of these people dying from multiple myeloma, from being either too old, too sick, or whatever side effects, and then, or just myeloma that just took over. So, being a rare form of cancer, the treatments and so on are not probably what is the most. The companies, let's put it down, don't kill themselves, but fight to get the cure for this kind of cancer when they can cure breast cancer, they can cure AIDS, they can cure prostate cancer, a lot more common standard cancers. And this cancer being such a rare cancer, and I can tell you that it's multiple myeloma attacks people usually of average. So 90% of people with multiple myeloma are averaging 70 years old. So this is an old people's cancer. The people under the age of 70 years old are 10%, and the people with less than 50 years old is 5%. So that means in Canada, there's 300 of us living with this cancer. And you can imagine that means that there's probably 20 or 30 in Vancouver, there's probably 50 or 100 in Edmonton, there's probably 75 to 150 in Calgary, and a couple hundred in Ontario, and a couple hundred here, and so on. We're talking about widespread, but not much chance of getting real thousands of people like they would have with breast cancers. So at this point, it is pretty well new treatments, because up to about 5 years ago, people were just dying from this disease. Now they're trying to treat. There is no cure, but there are treatments. Remission is possible, and then that's what we're trying to aim at right now. And the remission being free of cancer for a time being. It comes back, we can treat it again and again and again, as long as that person is responsive to the treatment. So in the next video, I will explain to you what kind of treatments that I have and how you feel with having this kind of diagnosis at 47 years old. Because it isn't easy for me to take, it's still not easy for me to live with. Because your life changes when you have cancer. And take my word for it. So we are here now to basically give you as much information about what the cancer is. And in the next video, I will tell you how you feel about this cancer. How I feel about this cancer. Thank you. Stay tuned. Here's Monica.
I pray you'll be alright, and watch us where we go, and help us to be